going on, everyone? Anthony Davis has been spectacular this season. If he plays 65 games, which I believe he will, he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's even playing like an MVP level type player. He's been unbelievable, super efficient, shooting the ball well, even the three ball. He's finally getting back to being that Anthony Davis bubble AD type guy, which we've kind of waited on, right? But as we've seen with the Lakers, when Anthony Davis misses a game or he goes out for his rest, the Lakers struggle in that backup just big man role period, right? You got Christian Wood, who I think is a better option than Jackson Hayes, even though Darvin Ham seems to play Jackson Hayes more. But even then, he's smaller, right? He's not really a center. He's more of a power forward. But I do think he could be serviceable. Jackson Hayes, he is extremely undisciplined. He's young. He's a project center. It's what he was when he was brought in. He wasn't supposed to necessarily be the second big man behind Anthony Davis. He was supposed to be a guy that makes sense for the Lakers to grow and develop, potentially be a starter at some point alongside AD, post LeBron, or maybe even like the first big man off the bench like he currently has been. But like a couple years from now when he's developed there, right, you have him and Colin Castleton as like your two development bigs. It made sense, right? But the Lakers are in win now mode, and the Lakers need to win an NBA championship, right? So the Lakers are probably in their best interest to go get another center. So I want to kind of run through guys that I think are realistic targets, some that are a little bit of stretches, but I definitely think the Lakers would target, and just kind of run through a handful of centers that I think would make a lot of sense for the Lakers, and that I think that potentially they could get. So let's jump right into it and get into the ones that I think are the most realistic. And I'm going to start off with Andre Drummond, right? Again, I know some people are not super stoked of Andre Drummond. They think, why would you get Andre Drummond? A lot of people say like, oh, Andre Drummond was terrible for us last stint, which is just not true, right? I mean, he was excellent considering the circumstances. A limited role, came in with like 20 games left in the season. He averaged a double-double for us, playing alongside Anthony Davis. Him and Anthony Davis would have chemistry. The Lakers were going to re-sign him, but he refused to take anything less than the max, so the Lakers ended up letting him go. Otherwise, the Lakers probably would have signed him because they just didn't want to be tied up between Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. Otherwise, Andre Drummond probably still be a Laker to this day. I don't hate the idea of Andre Drummond. He's on a vet minimum contract. He's been one of, if not the best backup big men in the league. I mean, he just had a 25 and 24 game or whatever. Dude is very capable of filling a role of what the Lakers need. The Lakers don't need this major starting level. Like I see a lot of people throw out Vu. I don't have him on this list because I just don't think he makes a ton of sense for the Lakers, right? And I just think his money and stuff, I'm not super sold on him. And just the lack of defense, right, is a bit concerning. But even if the Lakers were to look at a guy like Vu, Anthony Davis is going to play the 5 probably 40 minutes a game, especially come playoff time, right? LeBron at this stage of his career cannot play anything other than the 4, right? At least on the defensive side of things. You see him all the time. I love LeBron, but he takes a lot of defensive sequences off, right? But he can do that more at the 4 when most 4s aren't great shooters. He kind of play in that free safety scout role, right? But if he had to move over and slot to the 3 spot, he can do it in spots. But to ask him to do that for an entire game in and game out, especially during the regular season, just doesn't make any sense. So Andre Drummond, you just need him to come in, play 10 to maybe 15 minutes a game tops. You could swap Jackson Hayes for him if you want to do and throw them a second, right? Like, it'd be easy to obtain. It's realistic. If the Lakers do indeed trade for Zach Lavine or whatever, you could have Andre Drummond added as a tack on. I just think Andre Drummond makes a lot of sense. But another option, this one is kind of borderline, but Valanciunas, right? So Valanciunas, the reason I'm adding him on this list, I know the Pelicans are, they're still fighting, and we'll see how the Pelicans go. But Valanciunas was available this past offseason, the Pelicans were shopping him around because he's expected to leave after this season, right? His contract expires and then he will be a free agent, and the Pelicans don't believe that he's going to stay, and they want to get something for him, right? So again, he's only making $15 million this year, so it wouldn't be a hard just swap if you needed to. Problem is like, would the Pelicans want, because the Pelicans would need another center to replace them. However, if the Pelicans are bad and they're still like a play-in team come the trade deadline, they may just decide to move Valanciunas and figure it out and maybe try to get somebody on the buyout market or something, or just bring in a free agent temporarily just to try to get through the season and then kind of recalibrate. But Valanciunas makes a lot of sense. Again, I don't necessarily think he would start, but you're talking about a guy that gives you 15 and 10, underrated passer. He's 31 years old, so he's not so old to where it doesn't make sense. I don't think he'd cost a ton. If you were to re-sign him, you'd get his bird rights. He's shooting 57% from the field. You got big body center. He's not a great defensive guy, but he is a big body that you could throw at the bigger guys, the Jokic's of the world. He's a guy that's extremely versatile, shooting 36% from three this year. He's a career 36% three-point shooter. Doesn't take a ton of them. He only takes about one or two, a game average. But again, a guy that can give you 3 to 4 offensive rebounds a game. He averages that for his career. A guy that can block the occasional shot. This season, he's averaging 1.3 blocks. He's averaging just under a steal, right? Again, underrated passer, gives you 2.4 assists per game this season. He's a guy that I think could make a lot of sense. Could slot him alongside Anthony Davis, bring him off the bench. You could start him in spots, right, when AD's out of a game. He's a guy that go get you 20, right, on any given night, give you a 20-10. He's a guy that can give you a double-double. I really like the idea of Valanciunas. Again, the reason I say it's kind of borderline as far as like realisticness is just because will the Pelicans, now that they're kind of in the trenches, and also if they're kind of in range for that 6 seed, then I think the Pelicans may just say, okay, well, let's just keep him. If we lose him in the offseason, then we lose him in the offseason. But we'll see. Time will tell. I like the idea of Valanciunas. I think he would make a lot of sense. You could get Valanciunas and still make moves for other players, right? You could still go do other things. Lakers talks about, the Brooklyn Nets. Like, if you could get like a Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, and like Valanciunas, I think that would be a great sort of trade deadline for you. But we'll see. Time will tell. Another realistic option, Kelly Olynyk, 32 years old, hustle guy, toughness, right? Some people would say borderline dirty. He has some dirty just plays in his resume, right? But he is a guy that when he's on your team, you don't really have to worry about it. He's also not making a ton of money. He's only making $12 million this year, so he would be easily tradable. Again, you go get him, go get other pieces, right? Guy that stretches the floor, a guy that you can dump down and he can work around the rim. An excellent passer again. This is a guy that's averaging almost 5 assists a game this year. In limited play for the Utah Jazz, his minutes have gone down since last year. He's averaging basically 22 minutes a game this season. And he's giving you 8 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He's giving you a steal and a block, basically half a block per game. Again, not a great like rim protector type thing, but he is a guy that can go put the ball in the hoop, make plays out of the post, score around the rim. Excellent free throw shooter. He shoots 90% or 89.4 if you want to be exact. EFG of 61.9, so basically 62%. Shooting 62.5% from 2-point range, and he's shooting over 40% from 3-point range. This is a guy that's a career 37% 3-point shooter, but the last 2 years with the Utah Jazz, he has shot 39% or better. Last year, he shot 3.5 threes a game. This year, he's shooting 2. Again, guy that I think would make a lot of sense. Come in, play the backup role. You can even play him, slot him alongside AD, right? You can even play him at the 4 at times. Gives you just another big man, another big body to just throw at people, right? So I don't hate the idea of Kelly Olynyk. Maybe you get some other pieces from Utah. Utah probably going to have a fire sale around the trade deadline. So maybe you could work something out with Utah. Danny Ainge, we'll work with you. We'll trade with you. It's how we were able to get off of the Russ contract and get some other pieces. That's how we ended up getting like D'Lo and Vando. Unfortunately, Beasley didn't work out for us, but maybe get some other pieces. I like the idea of Kelly Olynyk. But now that we're going to get to like the territory of like not super likely, but I don't think is unlikely. And we're going to start off with Daniel Gafford. Many people have thrown out the idea of Daniel Gafford. I've talked about him before in previous videos. 25 years old, a guy that could be your starting center or backup center, post LeBron even. He this year is giving you 11 points, just under 8 rebounds, 1.6 assists per game, shooting 68.3% from the field, 6'10", good athlete, right? Again, a guy that's not going to break the bank. He's not making, 20 plus million a year. This year, he's due 12 million. Next year, it goes up to 13 million. Following year, it goes up to 14 million. So it's a guy that you'd at least have for the next 3 years. Could be part of your core. Always give him a new contract as you move forward. A guy that right now could come in and easily slot and make an impact, right? A guy that can be a shot blocker. The Wizards are absolutely atrocious this year. So they may very well be willing to unload Daniel Gafford and some other guys, get some assets, get, some picks, even if they're second rounds. Guy that can make some plays, pass out of the post a bit. Not great, not like Kelly Olynyk status or Valanciunas, but he is averaging 1.7 assists per game. He's averaging 1 steal and 2.2 blocks. He would be great to kind of offset in the time that Anthony Davis is out of the game. And then, if Anthony Davis takes a night off, Daniel Gafford could just slot in and you're in good shape. He's also shooting decent from the free throw line this season. He's shooting 71.2%. Again, EFG of 69.3, 69.3% from 2-point range. He's not a guy that stretches the floor. So he's not a guy that's going to go out there and shoot any threes. He's specifically around the rim, gives you another rim threat. And he's playing 26 minutes a game for the Washington Wizards. Daniel Gafford would be a solid acquisition for not only now and the future, right? So if the Lakers could work something out to get him, look, the Wizards, again, another trade partner last year, and Rui Hachimura, maybe we can convince them to part ways with Daniel Gafford. He would be nice. Next up, Nick Richards. Again, another just guy that could help now and for the future. 26 years old. He's on a bad team in the Charlotte Hornets. He's a guy that is very reasonable as far as contract-wise goes. He's making $5 million this year, $5 million next, and then he has a non-guaranteed deal in the third year where he'd be 28 years old for $5 million. Not super experienced, right? But he's been very productive. He's a real 7-footer with a 7'4" wingspan, 245 pounds. You could swap like a Jalen Hood-Schifino or something like that with him. Again, not a guy that's going to break the bank at all. This season, in a upgraded role compared to the previous years, he's playing 22.6 minutes per game. He's shooting 71.3% from the field. He, again, takes no threes, so not really a guy that's going to stretch the floor at all. Shooting 71.3%, as I mentioned, from the field on 5 attempts per game. He's also shooting from the free throw line excellent. He's shooting 78.1%, which is good. He's averaging 9 points, 7 rebounds. We'll be kind and round it up to 1 assist, 1.2 blocks per game, and then half a steal per game. So this is a guy that, again, could help now for the Lakers, but also be a nice piece for the future in a backup role, in a starting role, whichever. Again, a guy that could fill in the games that Anthony Davis is out or in the moments in which Anthony Davis misses a game entirely. But the last 2 guys that I want to talk about are the bit of long shots. One guy, not a major long shot. The guy that we're going to talk about next, not like a super long shot, but I do think is a bit of a long shot. And then the last guy is definitely the long shot. But moving on, Clint Capela. So there's talks about Atlanta wanting to get off of Murray. There have been talks about them maybe potentially having Clint Capela be on the trade block. I'm not super sold on the idea of going and getting Murray, just because I have concerns about his fit alongside LeBron. His biggest issue with Atlanta is him having to play off the ball so much. It's going to happen when you play with LeBron. He's not a great shooter. He's a guy that doesn't finish well around the rim. I understand the point guard duties. If we didn't have LeBron, go get Murray. Easy. I'd take Murray over all the other rumored guys. But if you could get Clint Capela as well, be kind of hard to say no, right? Because Clint Capela would solve basically everything the Lakers need. Thing is, you'd have to start Clint Capela, which is where the dilemma lies, right? Now you're kind of putting a lot on LeBron, but if you get a guy like Clint Capela, it'd kind of be hard not to, because this is a guy that you could have for the long haul. You could have a front court of Clint Capela and Anthony Davis, and you'd have the best defensive front court in the league, right? He's 29 years old, so you'd have him for the long haul. He's a guy that is very tradable as far as us trying to match salaries. He's making $20 million this year, making $22 million next year, and then he'd be an unrestricted free agent in year 3. So we could have him for these next 2 years. Again, you could just do like D'Lo and Jackson Hayes or something. Go get a Clint Capela. I wouldn't give up a first for him, but would it take a first, right? Or would you be able to get him for maybe 2 seconds? I don't know. It just depends on what Atlanta's looking for. Obviously, if you were to do a bigger deal where you could it would make more sense and justify giving up a first, then sure. But I mean, in 26 minutes, right? He's a guy shooting 60% from the field on 8.5 attempts. Again, not a floor spacer, not going to shoot threes. But he is also, again, shooting 72%, 71.8% from the free throw line, which is really good. And a double-double machine, right? It's a guy, help with the rebounding. He also averages 4.8, if you want to be exact, 5 offensive rebounds per game. That would be huge for the Lakers, right? So, guy that gives you 12 points, gives you 10.5 rebounds, 1.1 assists. He's averaging a steal and almost 2 blocks per game. Again, a guy that could come in, plug in, be your starter of the future post LeBron James, slot beautifully alongside LeBron James and alongside Anthony Davis. If he'd be willing to kind of take a backup role for the time being, maybe. But again, I just don't see that happen. If you were to trade for him, he's got to start. But regardless, great guy. You could throw out Jokic, the Embiid matchups, things like that, the bigger guys. Clint Capela would be a solid acquisition. But the last guy I want to talk about, again, bit of a pipe dream, but maybe not. We'll see. And that is Miles Turner. So the Pacers started off excellent. They made it to the championship round and lost to the Lakers for the in-season tournament. Currently, the Pacers are on a 2-game win streak. They are 16-14 on the season, but they are the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. They are once again a play-in team. Now, to be fair, they are only a game out of 6th and 2 games out of 4th. So they're right there, but the Pacers have struggled mightily. They can't defend anybody. They are like historically great offensively, but they just haven't been the same since the in-season tournament. If they continue to perform bad and we get close to the trade deadline and the Pacers are still just a play-in team and not looking good, I could see them maybe potentially shopping guys. Buddy Hield is available. He's a guy that definitely could be obtained, right? The Lakers had a deal done for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, but Jeannie, she ended up waiving that and vetoing that deal. Otherwise, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield would be Lakers. Look, the Pacers, they don't have to trade him this year, but more likely than not, they're going to, right? Not necessarily this season, but he's making just under $21 million this year. Next year, it drops to $19 million, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. He's probably not going to re-sign with the Pacers. He was vocal last year about getting out of there. The only reason he's still under contract is because they basically restructured his deal and gave him a ton of money. Otherwise, they might have had to trade him last year. If that didn't work and he would have said no, which I don't know why he would have, that was a great deal for him because he's probably not going to get that kind of bag again. He probably would be on another team. And so if the Pacers continue to struggle, continue to have their issues, I just think if they don't trade him this year, they're going to end up trading him next, right? Do you go and trade for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner and give up that final first, maybe give up a pick swap, right, and kind of match salaries? Buddy Hield could help a lot. Miles Turner could help a lot. Again, you'd have the best defensive front court in the league. Miles Turner solves a lot of the Lakers' issues. Guy that's giving you, he's also 27 years old, right? So he's a guy that could be there for the long haul for the Lakers too. Now you have that just monster front court of Miles Turner and Anthony Davis for the foreseeable future, right? I mean, even when he's ready to get a new contract, he'd still be under 30. He's playing 27 minutes per game, shooting 52% from the field on 12 attempts. He's shooting 34% from 3 on 4 attempts, and he has an EFG of 57.7, shooting 82% from the foul line. He's averaging 7.4 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 1 steal, and 2.2 blocks, 17.4 points per game. Miles Turner would be a home run, in my opinion. Again, bit of a pipe dream. That's why I put him at the end of this list, because I think it's not super likely, but I don't think it's unlikely. All right, I think it just depends on how the Pacers look. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think of this list? Is there anyone else that you'd add to this list? Again, try to keep it within the realm of possibility. Like I said, the only one that I don't think necessarily gets traded this year is Miles Turner. Everyone else, I think, has real potential or will be available at some point. So I wanted to keep it, again, within the scope of, hey, this is a real possibility. These are guys that make sense, that could target, that you could get from other teams. Which one is your favorite? Which one, do you think is most likely? Which one do you think is least likely? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.